You don't want to miss this discussion. I don't want you to go anywhere. If you turn the channel, if you go in another room, you will definitely miss something. I want you to be involved in this very important discussion tonight. All right. My guest, Merle Rutledge. Merle is not a stranger to Star News. Merle, a couple of weeks ago, you joined in on a discussion right after the death of Mr. Castillo, Philando Castile.
Yeah.
So you joined us along with my panel guests that were here by phone.
Yeah.
And we talked about you coming into the studio and talking about some other issues.
Yeah.
So you definitely are a concerned former citizen of Pittsylvania County, correct?
Yes.
Let me give everyone a kind of just a background of who Mr. Rutledge is. He's no stranger also to possibly a story that you heard. It was 2010.
Yeah.
That he was a Chatham gentleman that sued the town of Chatham. He said that his rights were violated. He was stopped and questioned by an officer. He claims that you were simply just walking down the street. And I remember at that time it was called Walking While Black.
Yeah.
Okay. You filed several lawsuits before. You were a senior at Norfolk State University, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
You were walking home from the library. That is when he was stopped by Officer Nathan Roach on Main Street in Chatham. And you didn't understand why you were stopped. You said that you had a gut feeling that it had something to do with your skin color, correct?
Yes.
All right. So he walked over to you, got your identification, and he asked you what town were you from. He says he felt like you were a suspect or a criminal. And it was from then that you filed a $36 million civil rights lawsuit against the Chatham officers. So I wanted to give everyone a background. And then we want you to catch us up to speed with what happened with that case.
Okay. Well, the case was actually dismissed, but it set the tone of racial profiling in this area.
Why did they dismiss the case altogether?
Because they considered it a technical seizure,
What was
where
the technicality?
meaning that the courts were split on whether they considered an officer asking you for your license and running it for warrant for no reason at all. Was it a part of a consensual encounter or was it a seizure itself? So the courts considered it a technical seizure where they said the law wasn't clearly established at this time. But other circuits, as far as Court of Appeals, which of course the judge considered as precedent, they considered it a technical seizure, where other circuits like DC and others across the country considered it an actual seizure. So basically, it was one of those type of situations that said, can we get stopped for no reason and be required to show identification? And at this time period, I think the courts are now starting to pay more attention to it now, especially with the recent shootings now that are
So your
happening.
case sort of set a precedent of how these the latter cases would be, of course, tried and how they would be looked at and investigated.
Yeah.
I would say, as we go back to 2010, can we just go back just a little bit still, because we want to get a catch up of what's been going on, because at that time you felt that still you had a gut feeling that you were being profiled. Do you still feel that way, that you were profiled?
100%. I still haven't changed my mind towards that case. The 36 million part was to get people to read. I wanted people saying 36 million for what happened. And so people could start putting a picture of themselves, whether you white, black, Puerto Rican, it doesn't matter. I wanted you to picture yourself not doing anything wrong.
What did he do to give you that gut feeling, though, that this was just not a typical stop of suspicion or that you were a possible criminal? What made you feel that it was because you were an African American man?
Because there's other white people walking around with suits, handling their business.
How were you dressed?
I was dressed in regular jeans and a regular shirt.
Okay.
Nothing different. Coming from the library, heading home.
You were a student.
Yeah.
Right.
So as far as I was concerned, what would make you so interested in me? Now, do you stop everybody else who comes into town and so happen to visit their family or visit their peers? And if not, then what would go ahead and target you towards me? And also, I checked the officer's background. This wasn't a one-time incident.
Really?
Yeah.
How many incidents had occurred with other individuals other than yourself?
4 up to date,
Okay.
meaning 4 different individuals came to me saying that they were stopped for no reason. Actually, some had said that they had their hands placed on the car and almost searched by this officer. So to say that you just do this randomly or not, the fact is people have a right to go about their business without feeling like they're a suspect or a criminal unless they give you reason to. Now, going to the library and carrying a book, if that makes you a suspect, then
Right.
you know.
Let's talk
so.
about the officer, Nathan Roach. Have you had any other encounters with him since 2010 or even directly after that incident?
I had a friend, Lafayette Hodnett.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was.
He's currently incarcerated, correct?
Yeah. He's currently incarcerated, but he was wrongfully arrested right after my incident. And of course, the town of Chatham worked out some kind of settlement arrangement to get it handled. But it showed the blatant disregard of how our officers have for the law. And it's not all police officers.
So
but
you don't feel that all police officers abuse their authority, that they are profiling races, especially African American males?
No, I think it's particular ones who haven't had that type of training to understand that a suspect could be in a business suit as well as in basketball clothes. But the fact is, you're letting them slide, and you're going after people who are generally looking like me and you.
Right.
But the statistics of Danville says that even for a drug crime, white people and black people use the same amount of drugs, but we are basically stopped or arrested at 70%, and theirs at 30%. So who else are you looking at? And these are records that was done by the Virginia State Commission.
Now, I want to make very clear that since 2010, you have been an advocate, and I'm wondering how many people now or did come to you afterwards and say, listen, Merle, I've had the same issue, and even up to now in 2016, who come to you and say, listen, I need information. I feel that I have been targeted. I feel that I have been profiled, wrongfully arrested, wrongfully accused. How many people come to you?
A lot. And I didn't know how much I affected people until you go to a gas station and somebody recognizes you in the area and says, are you Merle Rutledge? And then they go down their whole story. Now, not at all times am I saying the police is wrong. I can hear a story and say, you know what? The police was right in this situation. I'm very tough on my own.
Because even recently, with Corey, with the young lady who was killed in Baltimore, you actually could see why that occurred.
Yes.
And why they were justified in the killing of the young mother.
Yes, and a lot of people was mad at me when I responded, and I said exactly the police was justified in this situation. This was a traffic ticket failure to appear over it. You would have been out within a day, but I never condone any citizen pulling a gun out on a police officer at any time. It's too much to risk. I'd rather you living and breathing than to have an officer doing a split-second judgment on whether to take your life or not. And this situation was an hour-long standoff. They gave her plenty of time to actually come out, and I'm shocked at the patience of the Baltimore County Police Department.
Right.
And I even sent them a letter saying, I support you fully. I don't support bad cops, but I support cops that are willing to go the extra mile to not only protect themselves, but they also had the child to look after in the situation as well.
I've got to ask you, because I'm very curious, because I know Alvin Sutherland, who is a good friend of yours. You guys talk, or an advocate. He's an advocate just as you are, correct?
Yes, okay, a very smart one.
Yes, he is. He's been on the show, and he's going to be giving us an update on the case that he's going through, that's going through the system as well. But I've got to know, did you leave the area? Did you feel that you were forced to leave this area? Did you leave because you just wanted to leave for a change? Were you harassed after this lawsuit? Because I often hear stories that people feel a fear for their lives to a certain degree because of the degree that they go to sort of fight the system. Did you feel that way?
Yes. I'm going to tell everybody, when I left the area, arrest warrant was done the same exact day I was supposed to be on TV.
What was the arrest warrant for?
It was unauthorized practice of law. Now, the day early on the day, they said that basically on March 21st, they tried to apply for the arrest warrant. It never comes out until the day of my last interview with David Wilson.
Okay, right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Within a few hours. So it was strategically done
You felt that it was
to
strategically
keep me
done.
from being on TV.
To talk about it.
Yeah, and talk about other issues. Because at that time period, I was looking at these officers who were doing drug raids and the probable cause that they had on warrants to try to go ahead and justify whether it was from a confidential informant or not. Now all of a sudden, I get a phone call from a detective Connors, and she said, "You got an arrest warrant for you." You know what I'm saying? On the exact day I'm supposed to be on TV within a few hours.
Did they know you were going to be on TV?
Yes, they knew I was going to be on TV. Shockingly, these police officers in Danville, and it's not all police officers, I want to get that clear.
Okay.
I think a lot of police officers are very good cops in Danville. They just dealing with a system that has trained them to be outside the law. And sometimes you get kind of confused with that, but it's still no excuse either way. But regardless of the situation, the day of that interview, within 2 hours,
You were
I'm arrested and
How long
turned
were
myself
you
in.
detained? How long were you detained when you turned yourself in?
About 15 minutes. And I
You were
was
detained for 15 minutes for unlawful use of practicing law.
Yes. And they got the complainant, which was a drug addict who got hurt at Woodside Village Apartments.
And we're going to talk about that after the break, so we don't want to go too far.
Yeah.
But you were detained for 15 minutes. They released you.
Yeah, I turned myself in, actually.
You did turn yourself in. Okay, good for you. But so what was the outcome of that case?
Yeah, they found me guilty and believed this person's word over my word. And everybody had an interest in that outcome in this case. One, you want to discredit what I'm saying. Meaning, if I'm lying, you'll sue me for defamation or basically try to go ahead and prove yourself in those situations that I'm complaining about. But instead, this was basically from judge to prosecutor. The focus was convict Merle Rutledge. And tomorrow, I think I'll tell you about that.
We're going to talk about that when we come back for the break. Also, when we come back, we want to get some background on you for people who are just tuning in and they're asking, who is Merle Rutledge? Where is he from? Outside of the case back in 2010 of walking while black in Chatham and being accused of just walking as a citizen. So we want to find out who you are. But I want to know what you've been doing since then. And did you feel that you had to leave this area?
I felt my family wanted to make the best decision given what was going on. You know, this was too far, you know, above the lines. Would I have left the area otherwise? Maybe. But I'm back and I'm here to correct a lot of situations.
And you've gotten married since then too. Congratulations to
yes,
you on that.
Yes, and my proud wife is here in the
She is
studio
here.
and
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
She supports you all the way.
Yeah, she supports me all the way.
What does she think about everything that has happened in the last few years?
In the last few years, she's shocked because there's a lot of stuff she had to get caught up to date. Woodside being one of them, the fights I had with police, and you can see all the blogs, all the news articles.
We'll talk about all of that.
And becoming the most controversial person in this area. And with the NAACP, the SCLC, and all these civil rights organizations, that my name keeps being put in the middle.
Let's talk about them real quick. The SCLC and the NAACP, oftentimes even on this platform, people will call and feel that those organizations don't do any justice for any of us, not just African Americans. They feel sometimes that those organizations are too quiet. What is your relationship with leaders of the NAACP, SCLC?
Well, they're in their back pocket. This is just a fact. The leadership with the NAACP in Pennsylvania County, he's on multiple boards of their actual governments. And of course, with Avon King, he only talks to the police chief Broadfoot to find out their side of the story. And then by the time frame, he concludes it. If they don't see nothing wrong, then ain't nothing wrong. That has never been me. I'm like, I will listen to both sides of the story, but if you're wrong, you're wrong. But as far as I'm concerned with them, I understand why citizens had that viewpoint. Do I have anything against the history of these organizations and what their purpose is? No, I want them to continue. But if you feel like that you have your hands tied behind your back before you help somebody, then after a while you gotta become an individual and decide, am I gonna take action or I'm gonna keep being a sheep?
Wow. Wow. Listen, we do need to take a break. My very special guest tonight is Merle Rutledge. When we come back, we want to address a lawsuit that is currently ongoing or a case here in Danville Circuit Court.
Yeah, Danville Circuit Court.
All right, Woodside Village Apartments. We'll talk about that, Merle Rutledge, and we will take your phone calls. We want to just get some preliminaries from Mr. Rutledge tonight. I appreciate him from coming in. I've been wanting him to come in for a very long time here on Star News since he has been back in the area. So we'll be right back, and we'll take your phone